hunger deep. Food and drink culture, making memories to keep. Sharing stories, recipes, life's little dreams. On making beans, we spill the means. From kitchen to table, hospitality bright. Flavors of the world dancing in the light. Sipping, brewing, tasting fine. Making beans, it's our time. Tune in, folks, we're taking a ride. For culinary tales far and wide. We're talking food, we're talking drink. Making beans, you'll never want to blame.
All right. Welcome to Making Beans, the podcast where we stir up raw and uncensored conversations about cooking, food journeys, and the vibrant experiences of working in the hospitality industry. I'm your host, Chef John Wayne. Let's get cooking. Today's episode, books, cakes, and pies with pastry chef and author Roberta Wilson. She's been a pastry chef for 27 years, author of 6 books, currently a pastry chef of a nonprofit bakery in Chicago. Roberta, welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you, John. I am so happy to be here.
That is great. It is cold in Chicago, right?
It is brutal in Chicago. You know, the hawk is upon us, but it's that time of year. I don't know about the groundhog, but Chicago has 2 seasons, hot and cold. So one day you're wearing t-shirt, one day you're wearing,
Your turtleneck.
North Face. Yeah.
I definitely do not miss the Chicago cold weather.
Yeah.
Though sometimes I miss Chicago and the vibrance of the city, but you can have that cold.
Yeah.
You can have it back.
I was reading an article last week. So Milk Bar has made it to Fulton Market.
They're in Chicago now.
Yeah, Christine Tozy has an outlet there. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name. I keep thinking it's within a hotel. Somewhere in Fulton Market, but yeah, her desserts made it down there. But
That's
don't
good.
know.
How is it?
I haven't tried it yet, but I know there are some places. I wouldn't necessarily say similar desserts, but I guess it's nice to have that kind of variety because we've got Lost Larson and Mindy Siegel and some other places which probably have similar treats. So it's it'll be interesting to see it.
That's good.
Yeah.
What's the pastry scene looking like right now out there? I've been out of Chicago for 7 years now.
Well, it isn't that it's kind of going away. I think the mainstays are there. I know some of the family bakeries have closed. The Swedish bakery in Andersonville closed, and that was open for 40 years almost. Times are changing, not necessarily the pandemic, different customers. We still have, Lutz, and we still have Benison's in Evanston, and there's still some great places making, incredible croissants. There's a place, I think it's called the south of France, and they make just awesome croissants that taste like you made them in France. I do think the stronger pastry chefs, they are just going to be around. Like I did mention, Mindy Siegel. Of course, she has other areas. She makes edibles, and I believe she makes her own chocolate too. She has a chocolatier in Joliet. But I think we can always count on people like her. I think people are starting to come around. It's just going to take a little time.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
So let's go back to a little bit of your journey in pastry. You went to pastry school, right?
Yeah, I went to the Cooking Hospitality Institute in Chicago. I started.
Okay, same as me. All right.
Yeah.
I thought you went to maybe the pastry school, but it's been a long time.
The pastry school hadn't been built yet, John.
Oh.
That school, gosh, I can't even think. I was out in 2003, but the school was built sometime after that. A long time. Yeah, I know. Isn't it something? Wasn't even there.
Who was the chef? Did you have the chef there that he had a major gluten allergy, or he had a big allergy, and he had his own private cart? He's a pastry cooking instructor, had his own private cart, and it was all sanitized for him. I forget what his name was.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't have him for pastry.
Maybe it was after when you were there. When did you graduate?
2003.
So 3. So I was there 3 years after you. So
yeah,
maybe it wasn't there anymore.
Oh,
okay. So take us through. What was that like for you? And you focused on pastry specifically.
No, I took pastry and culinary.
You did both. Okay.
I did both. That's why it took me 6 years to get out. I did meat, sauces. I did everything. I was kind of grandfathered into a different program. So when the new kids started, it was totally different. But I just wanted to finish with my accreditations. because you really don't know where you're going to be. When I got out of there, when I finished school, I started working at in Joliet at Harris Casino. There, I was a little afraid to go downtown yet. I wasn't sure I've had enough experience, but I was working in Joliet, and I didn't realize they bought a lot of things pre-made, cakes already frosted,
Mm.
piping bags with icing in them already. So I was only there for about 3 months. And then from there, I got a job in Lincoln Square at a tea room. It was called Villa Kula then. And then after some time when they sold, it was called something else. So I learned some basic things there. Um, the chef could have been a little bit more helpful. Everyone has their own agenda, but I was able to learn some of the basic things like making scones, cakes, buttercreams, and, hollandaise, learning how to make some brunch items when they were shorthanded. So, slowly, kind of in a very creative way, I just kind of, climbed up that ladder of skill and just tried to stay away from people that you didn't really learn from. After Villa Kula, when it sold, I made it downtown to the theater district. I took a job at
Mm.
312 Chicago, where I learned how to do some more there, making salad dressings and learning how to make different cookies, fig Newtons, zabaglione, tiramisu, different things like that. And then after that, I just kind of started to, creep downtown and try to find places there where I could still continue to learn. And
Mhm.
gosh, back then it was like a lifetime. Grant Achatz, he was in Evanston working at a place called Trio. I mean, he hadn't,
Right.
Alinea was just a dream yet. All of those chefs,
Yeah,
Grant
Trio
Achatz,
was legendary. Yeah.
yeah, McLean,
Mhm.
Gail Gans, all of those people. They were just starting there. That was their stepping off place. So you're kind of looking at that from a distance. Not that you're comparing your trajectory to theirs, but you're just kind of looking at this on the corner of your eye. But you're trying to figure out which direction you're going to go, where you can learn some things.
Right.
And there was always that little bit of prejudice. You get your first job and you go to a place. Of course, I made the mistake of trying to get a job as a pastry cook at Michael Jordan's restaurant. What was it called? 160 Blue, and I don't
Yeah,
know.
and the I forget what
Some
hotel that was.
Yeah, some snotty
Yeah.
chef giving me a lecture. Well, what have you learned? And well, what have you know? I just came out of the Ritz Carlton, and then you can hear the executive chef laughing in the background. And I thought, oh God, I've got, but I think
Right.
everybody has that experience, that moment where you're like, well, I don't think I should be here. I think I'm going to find somewhere else.
Right.
And you just keep going. You have to keep believing that you're going to find that opportunity that's going to raise your skill higher. And it took me, a lot of places, and most of the time you're probably doing two jobs. Maybe you're doing pastry and you're doing, the cold side, garde manger.
Right.
And
A little
one night,
prep or whatever during
yeah,
service.
yeah. Or you're just helping set up the station. Really, you're washing the lettuce or grinding up the pistachios for the salad dressing, whatever it is. But I guess whatever it takes, you've just got to have that, persistence. You just
Okay.
have to, yeah, you have to have that persistence. And while you have the persistence, I think you've also kind of got to think about what kind of pastry chef do you want to be? Where do you ultimately want to
Hmm.
work? Do you want to work in a hotel? Do you want to work in a
Hmm.
high-end restaurant? Do you just want to mentor under somebody for a while? What do you feel comfortable with? But I just wanted to learn the basic skills, and I wanted to learn pretty much what I had to do to just, stay with it. They talk
In
about,
pastry specifically.
yeah, in pastry. Yes.
Okay. No, that's cool.
Hmm.
When did you know you wanted to pursue pastry, or originally you just weren't sure?
I really wasn't sure. I just kind of wanted to get out there, and I have to admit
Hmm.
it was a lot harder than I realized. Not so much the work itself, but people.
Oh,
um,
people
it,
always.
yeah, could be really brutal, and most of the time you really didn't know if they wanted to, because I would say probably 60% of them didn't want to teach you anything. They expected you to already know it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were a pastry cook for a long time. Um,
Right.
you're pulling the pits out of dates, cracking eggs to make ice cream, pulling the membranes off of boiled eggs. You did these, menial things like, some young doctor doing scut work in the ER, and you just don't necessarily think that you're going to get there. But then, of course, if you stay with the place long enough, then you start to see, kind of how it's going to take you. So, okay, we pitted all these dates and now we're going to make some toffee cakes with them, which was the next step. But maybe on your shift, you didn't see that. Maybe the next person is making the cake. But I'd have to say that, let's see, my grandfather passed away in 2006. And he left my sister and I a little chunk of money. And I moved to Chicago because I was commuting from my hometown of Momence, Illinois. It was a 90-minute commute each way.
That's a drive.
Yeah. Well,
Or did you take the train?
I was taking the Metro from University Park. And then, I leave work at midnight. I get to my car at like 2 a.m. and then get home at 2:45, whatever. But anyway, I got an apartment. So my first serious job was at 2006 when I moved to Chicago. I was working at a restaurant. It was called Agoibot, sweet sour. And, it was just a nightmare on two sticks. However, I learned a lot of things I probably didn't learn at any of the previous jobs before I got that job. So like I was talking about pitting dates and learning how to quenelle and making incredible recipes. Although, the husband and wife were just, a little bit extra. But despite that, I met some interesting people and I made some really good friends, some people I'm still friends with today. But I learned what it's like to prep for service, to make desserts, of course, to learn how to quenelle. You do like a million quenelles.
Oh, yeah.
But, I stayed with it as long as I could until, everything started to fall apart. I guess the place ended up closing, people were quitting on a daily basis. But in between that, the toffee pudding that we made was one of our best-selling desserts. We made a brown sugar meringue, a Devonshire cream sorbet, and this orange glaze, like orange juice thickened with the cornstarch slurry. And the different ice creams. We had an ice cream platter. They were kind of connected, I guess, within social media. So we had, the Hungry Hound. What was his name? Steve
Dolinsky.
Talking about, yes. He came to the restaurant and filmed. The Obamas came in for lunch. That was just, oh, goodness. Secret Service people tasting everything. When the place, started to get some notoriety, we had the James Beard people in. I don't think they won, but they did win for like best chef and best new restaurant. And, we did some incredible things, making honeycomb. I was even making things for the savory kitchen. I mean, we took a corn pone recipe, kind of like a cornmeal kind of a pancake. And he was putting like shrimp into it and
nice.
Roasted corn or something. They were doing something. The executive chef was from Bangladesh. He was Bangladeshi. And he also spoke Farsi, which is a very difficult language. I was very impressed by that. And some of the items on his menu kind of had that Middle Eastern edge. So he was making I think it was a passion fruit cream for a turbo dish, which was, really elegant. It was really delicious. So he brought some of that, and they had a pizza oven. They would do different pizzas. I think one was a rabbit with some kind of a smoked harissa sauce. I mean, there were some really interesting plates coming out. They had some notoriety in New York and Washington and LA. I believe her name was Malika Amin. I believe she was executive pastry chef at a place. Let's see, the Chateau Marmont, Balthazar Bakery, I think, something.
I think I heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's been there. So some of the desserts that she created, I think, were from there, or they were kind of a spinoff. Like there was a melting lemon cake, and like halfway through the baking process, you'd put in some of the lemon curd inside of it, and then you push it back in the oven so that, when they break into it, you kind of get this little oozing center. It was, really interesting. We made butter cookies with passion fruit cream and like roasted lavender sugar. So I learned a lot of recipes there. I learned how to do a lot of things I'd never done. So I took all of that and, you just kind of carry it over to the next job and see how you can expand that. And I think that's what you just keep doing. But my job after Agoibot was Sunda.
Oh, that's Sunda.
Yeah.
Where
Sunda,
we met.
Yeah. Sunda New Asian, where I met you and I met Rod and everybody. That was where I felt was my proving ground, because at that place there was just so much, I don't know, fighting and arguing and bickering. You could really get lost in it, and you just try not to let it affect you. So
Right.
when I got to Sunda, I started doing things even I didn't know I could do, because I was
That's
really
good.
never given that opportunity. And it was really a fun journey, just to see that you could, take nothing and make it into something. And of course, learning about Asian ingredients.
Right. An opportunity is very important for people because it keeps people, inspired and motivated, to do new things and,
Yes.
explore and
Yes. And share too. You're
yeah,
trying to teach other people.
yeah, of course.
You're trying to, it's a
That's
tough.
it. That's a good thing. What was your favorite thing you made at Sunda?
Well, I want to say the ridiculous,
Crazy.
but
The
yeah,
ridiculous.
but I really loved I really loved that mango tiramisu that I made.
Mm,
was really good.
yeah.
And the ridiculous, I think, it was such a challenge because it took just about three days to make.
Yeah.
But
It's very time consuming. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
but everybody loved that. The carrot cake. The carrot cake itself was just good by
Hmm.
itself, So then, of course, after Sunday at E&O, when Chef Rod wanted, that cake, I just thought that's, great. We can just kind of take the cake out of the ice cream and have another dessert.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, anything with brown butter has got my vote. But I
Oh, of
really
course.
love. Excuse me. I really love the cookie plate, but I know cookies are kind of a tough sell. I mean, even to Americans.
These days, they're a little bit more of a tough sell, I would say.
They
Yeah.
really are. Even chocolate chip. And of course with what's happening in the world, chocolate may be difficult to get. I was reading this article about this pastry chef was talking about what can you add to chocolate, or if you add less but something more. I hope it won't come
The
to that,
substitute.
because
I don't know. I
I
hope we
know,
don't go down
because
that road.
without
But
chocolate, I don't want. No, we're
so
going.
so what's your favorite chocolate brand to use then?
Well, I guess I've been spoiled because of all the great products I've got to use, but I have to say it's 64% Guayaquil cacao berry. It's my absolute favorite. It's a bittersweet chocolate. It kind of toes a line
Oh,
between sweet and savory, but I absolutely love it. It's my favorite in the world.
and the brand is Guayaquil?
It's cacao berry.
Oh, cacao berry.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
I
And you
I
get it
was
in pistoles?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
think I was using it at Sunda for a variety of things, maybe
remember.
in enrobing cakes. I don't think I made brownies there,
Okay.
but I just love the taste. I wouldn't necessarily say it's bitter.
I have
Uh,
to check that brand out. I love
mhm.
Valrhona myself.
Yeah.
I like to
Oh,
use
me
the
too.
72 Valrhona,
It's my
but
absolute favorite. For
yeah.
cookies. I
Hmm.
was making a brownie when I was at the Chicago Firehouse, and I used to use that chocolate a lot sometimes.
Right.
I don't know, just something about it. It's kind of spicy, but like I said, I hope we never run out of chocolate. I hope we
Yeah,
never.
I hope so too. Chocolate is it's good. It's amazing. When I'm at the restaurants, I'm always like, I'll grab, right before service or something, I'll get a little quart of it and I'll just be popping them in my mouth with
Yes.
coffee and just it keeps me going.
Oh,
It's
it's
so good.
wonderful. Yeah.
Just give me a bowl of the
Yeah. And,
pistoles and I'm good.
and that one cocoa I used to use, extra brute. Do you remember that
Yeah,
one,
the
John?
cocoa berry.
Yes, that's my
Yeah, I
absolute
still use that.
favorite.
That's the best.
Yeah.
So anybody out there using Hershey's, throw that stuff out. You want to get the cocoa berry
That fudge cake.
powder.
Yeah,
That
that fudge
stuff
cake that I used to make.
is bomb. I
It's
used it for a chocolate tres leches. It was phenomenal.
oh right, yeah,
Yeah.
that one I did. That was really good. I know it's so moist you can practically just make a big like chocolate ball
Yep.
right in.
Oh yeah. So
Um,
good.
but yeah, I just think
Hmm.
that's another integral part I think of a pastry chef's palate. How you use chocolate, and I really think you have to have a sense of humor. Kind of a sense of play. You can make a play on something in your dessert just to kind of make the guest remember,
Hmm.
maybe something they had as a kid. And I love to go back to those nostalgic moments. I've made
Well, I
ice.
think that's cooking. I think that's cooking itself. All cooking
Oh
has a
yes,
form of nostalgia
absolutely.
or a form of, heritage or
Uh-huh.
depending on where you
And
come from in the world or how you
oh,
grew up,
definitely.
there's definitely those connections. And I love that about food and drink and pastry and
Mhm.
the whole shebang. It tells a story. So that's
Yeah,
great.
pay homage to that. I love making ice cream with Ovaltine, and using some of those things. They're just so good. You go to the ice cream.
Ovaltine's before my time, I think.
Oh, please, John. Now you make me sound like I'm 100 years old. um,
But
when you
it's like Yoo-hoo, no? Chocolate,
well, I
chocolatey.
used to I used to wonder, like when you go to Dairy Queen and there's the drippy strawberries for the sundae, it's like, how did they get them so drippy? And so
Uh-huh.
then you start to think, it's like, well, I didn't realize how great strawberries were until I tasted strawberries that came from the farmer's market. I
Right.
thought this makes no sense. And having grown up in Momence, all those farm stands, I never really went to many. And I
Mhm.
regret that, with my life living in that town. But now you can just go to Green City or Evanston,
Mhm.
and they just, you can just taste the sun in them. So when I started making ice cream, I was working at this place in Evanston called Farmhouse. The first ice cream I ever made was strawberry buttermilk, and I took
Ooh.
some farm stand strawberries and made that. I mean, buttermilk is such a great ingredient. Buttermilk ice
Oh
cream,
yeah, it's great. It's
always for
versatile.
the
Mhm.
summer. Always for the
Y-
summer. I just
You know,
love.
the first ice cream I ever made, well, in culinary school. Want to guess the flavor?
Mm, coffee?
No.
I don't
D-
know. Well, but you gotta say
durian.
no, John. That's that.
Durian, the
What is
stink
that?
fruit.
That weird.
Yep. It was good.
No.
It to me, durian tastes like kind of like mashed up bananas and
No.
berries and with a little bit of garlic. But that was actually the first one because in class, they brought this, like basket out. These are going to be the flavors for the
Uh-huh.
ice cream we're to make in the ice cream segment, and they had durian, and I picked the durian. Everybody else went to the normal stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's this? I didn't even know what it was. And
What did it taste like?
I mean, it tasted like mashed banana with like berry and garlic, kind of like all over that. So it was
Mm.
good. I liked it. So, but no,
Oh.
that's fun. Um, so what early challenges do you think you had in the pastry field that you could share?
Well, let's see. Early challenges. Early challenges. Well, of course, commuting was kind of my biggest challenge until I moved. Um, I guess
But
I
I'd say more like to a recipe standpoint, like maybe you had something that was the laminating dough or something that was
oh I
very
was
complicated or had to be so precise because pastry has to have a
yeah.
certain level of precision
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people just a
Yeah,
lot
don't
of chefs,
yeah.
a lot of cooks are like, no, I want nothing to do with pastry. So maybe you countered something like that early on, or maybe it was tempering chocolate or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't doing either of those things just yet. I
Hmm.
guess I'd have to say with me, I think it was just getting organized because sometimes you
Mm,
work at a place that's smaller and then you're
right.
trying to organize things for your own service, and sometimes it's a little bit tricky.
Well,
Uh,
pastry gets shoved out in a corner somewhere, and it could be
yeah,
the
I mean,
smallest thing. Yeah.
yeah, there's this huge case with salad, and I had to turn everything over for dinner, and
Mhm.
it was kind of difficult. You're trying to get everything done by 5 p.m. and you're trying to see what you have, and that was always my struggle at this place because you're trying to do two things, two stations on one big cold area, and it was pretty hard
Right.
trying to get everything right. You're trying to do something here, plate something, garnish something, and then the other guy's over here tossing salad. Maybe he's got something on the sizzle platter. Maybe he's making some tuiles with Parmesan cheese, and you're trying to work together and accomplish both of that.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's what happens. But in the beginning with me, it was getting organized.
Yeah. Organizing is key. Yeah.
Yeah, and not everybody. I don't know. Maybe if you have more space, or maybe you've got a couple of cooks doing that for you. But I did my own. I guess I felt more comfortable because I, didn't want to, be in the shits when it's like 5 o'clock and you've got nothing prepped, or you've got stuff in the oven. You still got to take it out and cool it down and get everything set up.
Yep.
Sometimes you just would rather depend on yourself. because you're getting to know your coworkers. You're not saying they can't do it, but you're getting to know them first. So you're just trying to learn their habits, and you just want to make sure that you're not in trouble by 5, because that's just the most miserable thing in the world. You spend the whole night running because your station's not set up.
Yeah, that's stress that comes bearing down. That wall is just
Oh God,
a million bricks, and you're just like, oh my God, and you can shut down a little bit too. It's just like,
I know. You spend the whole night running, and then at 10 o'clock you're just like, what just happened?
Yeah, you have no idea what just happened. I need a drink now. Of course.
Oh my God. But when I worked at Agoibot, when I started working there in 2006, that was the same too, getting your station set up. There was I think there was about 4 of us at night, depending on the schedule. And then as the night went on, I think it was 3 of us. But it was when we were making ice cream there, we didn't use we didn't put something like corn syrup in the ice cream. The chef wanted to keep it all natural.
What did you use to help stabilize it?
Nothing. So which I didn't.
Got really hard then.
Yes, and so
so you had to temper it well.
Yes, and we'd take it out for like 2 hours before service. Sometimes like put it on the mixer, let it go around for like a second, and then put it back in. But it would just tighten up again. So you're trying to quenelle this freaking ice cream. It was just such a nightmare. Oh my gosh, my carpal tunnel. That was challenging. And then everybody's got the ice cream dip freezer blues. Oh, the freezer went down, and then you run everything to the other freezer. But then, Savory's got their steaks in there. It's just like,
Yeah, it's just a mess. Organizational mess. Oh, I remember the freezer in Sunda.
Oh, please no. Yeah.
Remember crab month?
I remember that.
We got like 50,000 crabs. It was like 50 cases to get that in there. Oh my God.
I remember when you had to take the whole thing apart, John. Remember, you took every piece of it off. You took the doors off and everything. Melted the whole thing down because it just wouldn't work. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Organizational skills come in very in demand being a chef. For sure.
It is. I suppose when you do have it, there is a joy in it because you feel like you finally found that symmetry. You finally found people that understand how it all works, where you put your things, where you store your things. So when you have that really busy night, you're not stressing so much about that. And I think, as I continue to grow in my skill, I worried about that less, and I worried about the recipes more. Excuse me. You work at a different place. You try to understand what they want on their menu. And that became more of a priority. Maybe the place was larger. Maybe you didn't have to worry about the mise en place so much because maybe like when I was working at the hotel, this was before the pandemic. I was working downtown at Grandin State. I didn't so much have to worry about the mise en place. I just had to make sure that everything was in its place so they could just grab it. The cake slices or the baked cookies or cupcakes, or we were making pretzels with food grade lye and whatever else. That pretty much started to become my job in later years, where I was just there to, bake everything and just make sure that it was there for somebody else to grab it. Like even when I was doing R&D working at E&O and at, Yum Cha, just making everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, the Yum Cha. I love that steamed milk cake.
Yeah.
That thing was awesome.
It really was. What is it about steam in a cake? I was using about 30% steam in that Rationale oven, and it just turned the pound cake into something else.
Yeah, it's just so light and just, it was so good.
Yeah, and those
the warmth that came out of it was
I
amazing
know Rod
too.
loved those. And those fried milk sticks, remember those, Sean?
Yeah, fried milk sticks. Those were brilliant. Yeah.
I still got the recipe. I know. I mean, I just kept, because I really didn't understand
deep fried milk.
Yeah. That recipe, I don't know, just came out of my overworked brain. And remember one day somebody came into Sunda and they had some donuts, like Hostess, the little gem donuts. And I don't know, I was just staring at them. I was staring at that coating outside because I was thinking about the almond cake, the ones that I dipped in butter at Yum Cha. I thought, well, what would happen if I just, took the cake, dipped it in butter, and put all this stuff on it? And it was really amazing. And Rod was always saying, hey, put some coffee mate in it. I said, coffee mate, chef? And I got some. So it was like coffee made, powdered sugar, and then some toasted coconut. And it was
Yep.
just remind me of those little donuts.
Yep.
It was delicious.
Yep. Yep.
I've never seen anything like that in a bakery before. I mean, I like to just kind of, go off the beaten path and just throw something in there that you wouldn't even think would
Yeah, it's
be.
experimentation. I mean, I love the level of experimentation. You can, it's one thing you learn the basics and you learn the rules, or you learn the mother sauces, but then you can kind of bend all those recipes into something else or something more
Totally.
unique, and that
Yeah.
it's true for pastry as much as it is for cooking.
Oh,
So
definitely. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you never know what you're gonna come up with until you try it either. So
I
no, it
know.
was brilliant. We were doing some really cool stuff at
I know, and it
Yumsha,
was so
and
fucking fun.
yeah,
It
and
was so fun. I mean, sometimes I get home from work and I couldn't even sleep because I was thinking, that was so fun. My
yeah,
God.
oh yeah,
We had the best fun. That was I just love that. Of course, I miss, Chef Rod so much. But the best moments when we're just in the kitchen experimenting, we don't know
yeah.
what we're going to do. We
Exactly.
don't
We
know
don't know
what
what. We just start with
we're,
an idea. Rod is like,
yeah,
"Oh, I have this idea," and we just start throwing things together. And it's like, "Oh
yeah,
no, maybe this, maybe that, or
yeah,
let's do this, or this is good, but then let's do that." It's all experimentation.
yeah.
When
What do you,
when I did the fried chicken and perfected the fried chicken, that was a couple months to perfect that dish. And if I do it now
really?
on a menu, people love it. I
Oh,
don't know if you remember the fried chicken from
I do.
Sunda.
Are you doing that at 10:55, John Park?
No, I'm not. But I did it
Oh,
at Pico, and I had clients coming in, farmer clients coming in, and they wanted fried chicken parties because they loved it so
really?
much. So yeah, it's a good recipe, but it's that time in the development, is really key. Really putting your time in. So, and I
Yeah.
know some of these, when you think like Bocuse d'Or, or these Michelin restaurants, sometimes it takes them months or years to perfect a dish. Like you just
Yes.
never think it's perfect. It's like this or that, or whatever. But I think it's key sourcing your ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Specific ingredients that you're looking for, a specific profile to your style of how you approach things.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I think brands are very important, when you get into like ketchup, if I'm not making it, I'm Heinz ketchup. I mean,
Yeah.
why would I get another ketchup?
Yeah.
You know, uh,
Yeah, I've
and
worked at
it's
places where they used to make it. They used to make it with Bloody Mary mix. The best
well,
ketchup you've ever had in your life.
there you go.
Juniper
Uh,
berries, brown sugar. I mean, you
yeah.
couldn't find it like that. What you were saying when you mentioned the word Michelin restaurants. I was having a dinner with a couple of my girlfriends, and we were talking about that. We were talking
Mhm.
about how it seems like fine dining is starting to go away, and
Yeah, it's tapering down.
so
It's
that
definitely
casual,
tapering down.
that fast casual is
Yeah.
starting to come back again. The places that close Ruby Tuesdays and all that,
Mhm.
people are they would rather go there for dinner than go to a white tablecloth. I mean,
Right.
sure, if you're in town, it's a friend's birthday, and you want to go to Ruby Tuesdays, well, you go to Ruby's or you go to the other place. I mean, I think it just depends. I don't know if it's the economy or if it's just a personal preference.
I think
Um,
it's more preference to people. They're looking to more socialize than have a fine dining kind of like, I don't want to say necessarily snooty, but
no,
or uptight, but
well,
um
yeah,
something a little more laid back, a little more social, informal. Because now everybody's got their freaking phones and they're on their phones and they're taking photos of
I
things,
know it's
and I'm
annoying. I
just
mean,
like, okay.
it is. You just see, this lighted screen. And, when you were a kid, you went to a nice restaurant. Everybody was just talking with each other.
Mhm.
I'm wearing like, a skirt and a pretty blouse. I mean, you know, no one is doing anything but eating. And now people let their kids run around the restaurant. Guys
Yeah,
come in jeans, ball cap, you know, girls are wearing, see-through clothes, outfits shorter than what my freaking
yep,
Barbie dolls wore. I mean, you're so distracted. You can't concentrate. So
yeah.
yeah, you just go to some fast casual because people aren't dressed like that, not necessarily. But
I mean, I think it just depends on where you're at too. If you're in a big city like Chicago versus like if you're out in the suburbs, there's
well, yeah,
definitely different vibes. I think, suburbs are are going to be a little bit more formal probably
Yeah.
these days than like a big bustling city. But also people pop around a lot.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And you go to places, some people go to places because they want to be seen. They're really loud.
You have the scene of the city too. Yeah, of course. That's
Yeah,
always been true.
that was
You know,
always
what's the
fun.
hottest bar right now or
And then you
concept right
go
now?
and you spend the whole night going, what? Because it's so loud you can't hear yourself.
Yes, of course. Of
Oh,
course.
I don't know. Those were fun. When I was in culinary school, you talked about what the hottest restaurants were. Charlie
Hmm.
Trotter was the hottest chef in town, and I'm sure you've heard that his son wants to reopen his old spot.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I saw an article about that. His son wants to reopen it. So, you know, and you want to go to these restaurants that you hear about. You know, let's go
Right.
to Umbria, or some of the ones that you don't hear about. Gordon, these, you know, the new kids wouldn't know anything about these. So you finally go and you dress up to go to those places. But the thing about it is they're so noisy. You can barely hear yourself
Right.
talk. So you spend the whole night saying, what? And then you try to eat and enjoy the food, and it's great, and it's hot, and it's delicious. But it's so loud, and you think, gosh, I never knew it was going to be so loud in here.
Yeah, acoustics and sound and lighting. I can't stress about
Yes,
lighting either. I think it's
yes.
very
It
important to get the
always
right
so-
ambiance all around and find that balance to where it's not so loud. But yeah, it just depends.
Yeah,
So,
definitely true.
so I got to ask, I got to ask all my chefs that when they come in, who are your mentors growing up through your career?
Well, as I watched Julia Child, you know, long before I started school, and you know, my mom. But I guess I can say when I started, I don't really believe I necessarily had a mentor until I met Chef Rod. I met lots of chefs. Some of their advice, you know, rang true, but I don't know. A lot were more interested in their purported fame, whatever that was going to be. But I really don't think I had those feelings until I met Chef Rod when I started
Right.
working at Sunda.
Oh yeah. I can definitely
Yeah.
agree with you in that one. Yeah, he was definitely
Yeah.
a mentor of mine as well. So
Yeah. He used to tell me that my desserts in the beginning, that my desserts were like, I don't know, too tame or like everybody else's. And so after he said that, I just kind of just went off the grid and just started making all these things. And he never
it's
said,
an empowerment. Yeah,
yeah,
encouragement, empowerment.
yeah.
Break the box. You know.
I mean, and another thing, you know, Chef Rod hired me, and he did something that no other chef ever did. He didn't ask me to cook for him. I was sitting there with my recipes, and I thought, well, he's not going to hire me when I tell him who my previous employer were, because he actually knew the previous chefs that I worked for in Los Angeles. So I said, he's not going to hire me because they were nuts. They were nuts. Husband liked to throw plates on the ground. But anyway, so he asked if he could see my book, and I just showed him my notebook. And he starts flipping through my book, and he just starts laughing. And I said, "Pardon me, chef." And then he was like, "Well, you made some of these things?" And I said, "Yeah, and some are things I'd like to make." So he takes 2 or 3 of those things in my book, and he puts them on the menu. I thought, I didn't know you were going to do that, chef. I was just, you know, and I thought, oh. And one
That's
of them
good.
was, yeah, and one of them
Well, he
was
was good at empowering people.
yeah, that banana cream pie, the one that we 3-step breaded and fried. And you know, I thought you were kidding. He was not kidding.
It's good. So wait, I'd say through your whole career, what is your signature like go-to dish, favorite dish that you like to prepare? Maybe it's something simple, maybe it's something advanced.
Everybody asked me this question, and I really can't settle on one item. What's my favorite?
It can be hard, right?
Well, favorite dessert or favorite thing that I like to make, or both?
I think I think it just in general.
Well, personally, my favorite dessert's old school. I'm just going to say creme brulee.
Creme brulee, yeah.
I just think it's the most perfect. It's like the little black dress of desserts.
Okay.
And gosh, favorite thing I like to make. Oh, geez, John. I would have to say my chocolate fudge cake. You know, the extra brute with the chocolate mousse layers. I used to make that at the Chicago House. I just love it because that chocolate, you know, it's so dark and stark, has such a smoky flavor, and it's so, you know, it's just such a moist cake. I love it.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's great.
So
I want to talk about your writing now. So you're a
Okay.
published author. You have
Yeah.
6 books now.
6.
Is Are you tying any of your culinary hospitality background into your books?
Yes, I am. My latest book, When Love Gets Deep, there's actually a section in the back of it where I include recipes, my own
Oh,
marshmallow
okay,
graham cracker recipe.
good. That
Yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
We'll get some
So,
links for that, and we'll get it up for people
yeah, the chef,
to your books.
she has
Um,
a culinary background, and she quit being a pastry chef to become a showrunner for a television show.
oh, okay.
So I just include some scenes where she's cooking with this man she meets. They're rolling out graham cracker dough in the pasta crank, and
Mhm.
making crackers, because I actually used to make crackers like that at a restaurant. So you're not having to roll big pieces of dough or something, because they didn't have a
Right.
sheeter. So I used the pasta maker just
Yeah,
for
the pasta, yeah, would work great. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, it did. It was
Yeah.
great.
Adapting to it.
Yeah.
So, so now as you've been writing your books, how do you see yourself moving forward in the future? Continue your writing and pastry, or you just want to go more into writing, or
Well,
what are your future hopes and dreams?
I'm looking for a publisher. I'm trying to find a publisher that will represent me and, help build my career further, perhaps with more marketing. I do some
Mhm.
marketing myself, and I know a lot of these companies just want crazy money.
Right.
So I'm, trying to do what I can with videos, with word of mouth, with posting videos on YouTube and my own books page. So I still want
Mhm.
to continue writing and publishing. I have written TV scripts. I did give one to a producer, and he gave me some notes to work on. And
Mhm.
because it's culinary oriented, the producer said something about, "Have you seen the bear?" I said, "Well, of course I've seen the bear, but this has nothing to do with that. This
Right.
is my thinly veiled, first year working at a Michelin restaurant, and everything that happened. Maybe I stretched some instances, but this is not necessarily like that show. I mean, it has points
Right.
like that show, but it isn't like it. So I would still like to keep writing and publishing, and if there is some avenue in the culinary field that I could pursue, I'm interested in that. I'm still looking, kind of out of the corner of my eye, where I could do more managing and a lot less baking and running around, even if it's writing
Mm.
recipes. Not so much being part of the day-to-day operation, but just kind of being in the background, more of the management part.
Right.
Um, you know, being day-to-day, sometimes it's tough to be tied to being responsible for every single aspect. You just kind of want to, do your portion, which is important, but someone else has that duty.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So what is some advice you would give someone who wants to start getting into become a pastry chef, or they finished pastry school and they might be looking for their first position, or somebody who might be wanting to write a book? I think there's a lot of
Well,
people are looking for other avenues outside of hospitality.
yeah,
Like yourself, either writing,
consulting.
or like me doing a podcast now. I think there's a lot of room for content, even a television show or movies. There's not a lot of representation.
No,
What kind of advice would you give for everybody?
well, I know there are probably a lot of jobs that I could have avoided just because the people there were just really not nice. So I guess
Hmm.
I would say follow your heart. Wherever you think you're going to get the most education,
Right.
pursue that first.
Especially
And,
early on.
and always crack a book. Always have a book open to read about something. Read about lamination. Go to the markets, go to the farmers markets, look around. Sure, experiment at home. There's always more than one way to cook a banana.
Right.
And I know you sometimes need a helping hand when you're doing production. You can buy anything in the world. You can buy tart shells, you can buy chocolate, but learn how to
Yeah.
do some things from your own experience to kind of add your own little personal touch to it. And, I think you can climb as high as you want to go. But I sometimes feel that also this next generation, because we're still short staffed out there, And they're laying a lot of responsibility on people when you come in. And you want to make sure that you know that ahead of time. You don't want it to ruin your overall experience of your education. It
Right.
could just be a one moment in time, 1 year that you worked your butt off and then you go somewhere else and it's different. I just say, stay persistent.
Yeah,
Have a realistic
persistent.
expectation. And truly, I think it's great though, John. I think your show is a great opportunity. You can get a lot of people to weigh in on their experience. So I think anybody that's really interested in doing that would be an opportunity. Keep in
That's
touch
good.
with your classmates. You never know what it could be. Have you bumped into any of your classmates from school lately?
Oh man, it was
Years?
so long ago. I mean, I really haven't maintained like a connection with them. I
Yeah,
kind of follow, on Facebook.
yeah.
Some
Jobs.
of them follow me and things. They're some are in Chicago and some are in Atlanta
Yeah,
or
yeah.
in other places. But it does get a little bit hard. But they're
Well,
all,
yeah,
a lot of them are very successful, doing some great things,
yeah.
and I follow a lot of their careers. Yeah.
I haven't crossed paths with anybody. It has been a few years, but some people have crossed my path on a job.
Mhm.
My first job in cooking was I was working at the Walnut Room at Marshall Fields.
Mm.
I still
Marshall
call it
Fields.
yeah, I still call it Marshall Fields, but yeah, we went to school together and we met at Marshall Fields, and I was on the pastry team. They had 13 desserts, and one of them was creme brulee. So I feel that job really taught me how to make creme brulee because we have to make like 200 to 300 a day.
Creme brulee. Yep. Of
Yeah,
course.
cold. Yeah, just we learned how to do it, and it was really awesome. That's one way to learn production. You work at a place where you have to do things big numbers, so you really get a feel for that. And then when you scale it
Good.
down, when you're working at some smaller place, you're all set.
Okay, so going back to books and reading. So,
Yeah,
what pastry book would you recommend out there? What's your number one recommended pastry book
pastry. Oh
or
gosh,
baking?
I don't know why I always feel like go back to Julia Child. My
We
grandpa
all go
actually,
back to Julia Child.
when
Nothing
I
wrong with
started
that.
cooking, when I started school, my grandpa gave me the comprehensive illustrated book of Good Housekeeping cookbook. Believe it or
Mm,
not, I still have it. But there's some really good recipes in that book that just
right.
teach you. Like I learned how to make cream puffs. I learned how to make a brisket.
You can
Um,
take clippings out of it. I remember my mom, taking clippings out of it, things like that.
yeah,
Love those types of books.
don't knock those things that. Let's see, what book am I always reaching for? I guess I'd have to say I love Rose Levy Berenbaum's Cake Bible. I mean, my book is so worn, you know, leaning on that for cakes and, tests and things like
Shoot,
that. One of my favorite books that I was always reaching for, Rose Levy Berenbaum, The Cake Bible. My
Cake
copy
Bible.
is,
Okay.
yeah, Cake Bible. Yeah, my copy is so worn. There's some great recipes, just wonderful cake recipes in that book, and just reading about, how our mind works, how you can apply that to your cakes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of doing a reverse creaming method, which she does for a pound cake, and it makes the pound cake so incredibly light.
Lighter. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you put everything in the bowl except for the eggs, and you add the liquid at the end. It doesn't make sense.
So the egg at the end.
It's egg and liquid, I believe.
So what are you creaming first?
You're taking, well, first you're mixing the butter. So you got room temperature butter and sugar, and then you add
Right.
the flour and
Hmm.
salt, and you mix all that together, and then you're adding the liquid at the end.
At the
You
very end. Oh, okay.
you add half of it with the creamed butter and everything, mix that, and then you're adding what's left in two parts. And
Okay.
the batter looks like you creamed it, the whole time like you were supposed to, but it makes an amazing pound cake because
Wow.
we sell
Okay.
those at the farmer's market where I work. We have a lot of products. I have scones, cheddar, bacon, scallion, and blueberry lemon. And we also have the pound cakes. And I'm trying, I try to
Where you're at
incorporate,
now?
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, I try to incorporate that idea just to see, because sometimes you can overmix a pound cake and make it a little bit hard. But I just love the ideas in that book. There's just some things in there. I mean,
Facebook.
there are just millions of cookbooks that you can buy. There are all these cutting edge techniques, but you have to think basically There are so many things that you're going to make over and over and over. Ganache,
Right.
you're going to make mousse, you're going to make pastry cream. There's so many things. And if you can just take a basic cake recipe and even turn it around a little bit, you'd be surprised how far that can go. One day
Right.
it's a cake. One day it could be a crust for something. Nothing. You can just take something and make it something else.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Roberta. Well, I think we're to close up here. Thank you so
Okay.
much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you,
It's been
John.
a
It's been
wonderful
wonderful.
conversation.
Yes, it has.
I'm definitely want to get some of the. I'll hit you up after the show, and we'll get a little bit of information for you where we can look at your book,
Oh, yes.
and all that, and I'll post it on with the site now when we get this episode up. So,
Okay, great. Thank you
everybody,
so much.
thank you for coming on to the show, Making Beans. Please subscribe. I'm gonna hit the links up here. makingbeans.com. We have our socials. Please follow Making Beans Podcast on Instagram. You can also follow me, cowboy_chef on Instagram. But thanks for tuning in. Keep your fires burning and your knives sharp. Until next time, keep cooking. Cheers, everyone.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Cooking up stories, making dreams. Talking about life, sharing themes. Sip on wisdom, enjoy the ride. Recipes and culture all in stride. Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Hospitality, we keep it real. Chefs and brews, they'll make you feel. Every dish, every drink. More than just what's in the sink. Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Life is flavorful of zest. Join the table, be our guest. Culture, stories, new cuisine. Every episode like a dream. Ooh, 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 Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Life is flavorful of zest. Join the table, be our guest. Culture, stories, new cuisine. Every episode like a dream.